5 years was I worked at the Hearthstone Nursing Home, and I thought that was a great experience. I worked in the office and was the payroll clerk, whoever has to be the payroll clerk here, I believe. It's I did payroll for probably 250 people, handled the workers' comp. I had to administer that. People had light duty. I had to make sure we scheduled them right. I had to make sure they got paid correctly when they did that, and do all that, the form keeping that goes along with workers' comp. Also, I had to keep track of vacation and sick pay, and any problems there were with payroll, we had to solve them with the employee, and the administrator had to okay what we came up with for an answer when we had to do something that way. But those have been my two main jobs since I've been back in New York the past 32 years. And I know that the county commissioners, as county commissioners, not going to agree all the time, but I know even when you don't agree and you don't get your way, you have to work together. I think that's really important, that you have to be able to work with others, even though I want this and you want that. This is the way the vote went, so this is what we're going to do. That's so important at being successful in your group. I also know this job isn't every other Tuesday, 8:30 job, and I know it's going to take time, it's going to take effort. I'll put in the time, I'll put in the effort, because as an insurance agent, you're pretty much, when you're in a community this size, the county, you're 24/7. That means the grocery store, your kid's ball game, or sometimes even in church on. At times they'll come up and ask you about stuff. It's what you do. So I thank you for listening. Thank you for the opportunity. I look forward to your questions. Thank you.
I'll start with the questions. Since you talked about budgets,
Yes.
when working with the budgets, can you tell me the difference between budgeted money and then actual money?
Actual money is money you have. Budgeted money is money you're hoping you're going to bring in your taxes, I would guess, is the way it works here. Since I'm not doing this yet, this business, and that's budgeted money is money that you plan on using throughout the year. Actual money is what you actually have in the bank, in your hand.
I have one other question here. If we choose you to fill the commissioner's vacancy, what would be your first item of business you would address?
I would have to learn, first of all, exactly, the first item would be to figure out what committee I'm on and what the main focus of those committees is at the time, because I know each commissioner has committees they serve on. I don't really have an agenda. I'm coming into this is the business we do here. They take care of the roads, they take care of the buildings, they have to take care of the jail, and just how you do that.
Thank you.
What would you say your greatest strength is?
Getting along with people, being able to listen, and even when somebody I've had several people stand and shout in my face, and you learn over time to listen to what they're saying, not how they're saying it. So I would say being able to listen and learn. I don't have to be a chief, I can be an engineer. So.
And on the flip side, what do you think your weakness is?
Oh boy. I am not somebody who goes home and reads books every night. If I want to learn something, I have to say, I'm going to put this time aside, and I'm going to do that. I'm not the best reader. I mean, I can read, don't get me wrong, but I am not the person who carries a book with them to work. So when I have a spare minute, I'm reading the book. obviously I have to read in the job we do, but some people are just voracious readers. I just happen to not be one of those.
You mentioned that you didn't have an agenda, but
Mhm.
is there a specific issue or topic from a policy standpoint that you would perceive in your county that you would like to address?
The only thing I can think of, since I've lived in the country for the last 12 years, I lived in town and out of town. I've lived in the city when we moved back, when we got married, for 15, 16 years, and I've lived out in the country for the last 13, 14, so both. And I would say the only thing is the consistency, not that they're not doing it, because they're out there doing it. But I drive every mile of this county, and the consistency of the road upkeep it's not the same everywhere. So maybe, how are our maintainer people being trained? Who's training them? Are they getting enough training? Are they being checked up on? I mean, that's about the only thing I see. I think that the county, as far as I can tell, from once a year, is financially sound. So I don't think there's a problem there. They're very conservative in spending taxpayers' money. So,
Good.
yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Hart.
Thanks.
Appreciate it. Next would be Mr. Pfeiffer.
My name is Rick Pfeiffer. I'm a long-time resident of York County. I grew up on an acreage south of York. I graduated from York High School. I currently live in Lakeland with my wife Denise, where we raised our two kids, Brooke and Cameron. Most of my work history is in the paper industry. Right after college, I went to work for my dad at he had a weekly shopper, and I was his commercial printer. Shortly after that, I spent a year and a half in Aurora working for the newspaper there. I came back to York to work for York Printing for 10 years. I'm currently working at York News Times as circulation manager. Through my work at the York News Times as circulation manager, I've traveled many of the roads in York County, whether it's setting up a motor route or going to local post offices and dealing with delivery issues. I'm also familiar with the pet roads by my kids playing summer ball, both baseball and softball. I spent summers going to the little towns around, and Denise and I were coaches, and we also recruited players. My kids went to Emmanuel Faith School, where parochial schools, you're kind of counted on to be very active because they're a parochial school. They don't have the funds, so they count on parents. And so we were active in the Parents-Teacher League. I also spent 6 years on school board. I'm active in my church. My wife and I are. We're members of Faith Lutheran. I just finished my second term as elder. My kids then went to Centennial when they got older. My wife and I were asked to be part of the Fine Arts Exploratory Committee. Basically, they were looking to see if there was a want or need for a fine arts facility, theater. We put surveys out. The surveys came back positive. So the next issue was putting the bond issue on the ballot. The bond issue passed, and today Centennial has a nice fine arts theater and a safe new entry to the school. 4 years ago, I was asked to serve if I'd consider being on the village board in Lakeville. I put my name on the ballot. I won an election. I recently was reelected in November. Since then, I was asked to serve the Waco Village Board as a YCDC board member. One of our big accomplishments we achieved during my first term as village board was we were able to secure preferred popcorn. We worked with the YCDC board, and we were able to get some preferred popcorn in the old Even Temp building. I was also encouraged by a former county commissioner to run for this position. After careful thought and consideration, here I am today. It'd be an honor to serve the constituents of the second district, and I'd also be honored to serve the employees of York County. Thank you.
And with all those accomplishments you gave, how available would you be to your constituents?
Actually, quite a bit, because we are also part of the CBO, and we're starting to do things like we have Easter egg hunts, we have Christmas things with Santa Claus, we're starting to have community coffees, and basically I'm there for a lot of that stuff. Also, my job, I can work remotely if I need to, so if I need to do something for a lot of my job, I work ahead. I try to work ahead, so I'm always, so if something comes up, I can go do something, because it's always helpful to do.
Have you ever worked with budgets?
Not a lot. No, not a lot.
Why do you believe that you should be selected above all the other applicants?
Well, for one, I live like in the middle of the district, and I know a lot of people on both sides. And also, I feel I do a good job. I've served in many capacities, so I think I could do this as well.
Was there a specific issue that that propelled you to want to run for this particular responsibility? And if so, what was that?
I don't see any issues. In fact, I've been quite impressed with the Department of Roads, how you guys have been, you go to the website and there's a 1-year plan and a 6-year plan, and everything's very detailed. Also impressed with what you guys been able to keep up with the bridge upkeeps, whereas you got 2 bridges you're currently working on and 2 bridges that are pending. So I really don't have an agenda at this point, but as things come up or constituents talk to me, I'll bring those up.
Very good. Thank you. Mr. Runge?
Hi, my name is Craig Runge. I live south of Waco. I just recently lost my wife a couple months ago, so that's one of the reasons I'd like to serve in this capacity, because I feel I have time to do it. And we owned our own business for 25 years. We sold it in 2014. I've been working for farmers off and on since then, and even before then. I help my son out a little bit now, but I would consider myself semi-retired, so I have time to do the things that this job requires. I served for 15 years on the Waco Volunteer Fire Department. I was a member of St. John's Lutheran Church in the rural Waco for 24 years. Since I've become a member of faith here in New York, I have 3 kids, 2 of them live here in York, 1 lives in Grand Island. I guess that's one of the reasons I wanted to do this. So,
You kind of answered some of my questions of how available you would be with your constituents, and how involved would you be with the committee assignments that you would have? Because some of them, you know, they're like in the evenings and.
that's, if there is something that needs to be done, I will make every effort to be there and be involved. So,
And with your employment, when you worked at, your, where you used to work, you have to
Yep.
open up the up. Did you have budgets, have to do a budget for
Um,
or?
It was a travel industry based thing, you know, so we didn't really know what our income was. We could take last year's income and use it to kind of set a budget for what we would be able to afford to, if we wanted to make improvements or do anything like that. So that was about the biggest budget thing that we could do, you know, 'cause
Yes, thank you.
What do you believe are the 3 most important issues that York County currently faces?
well, I believe that taxes is probably number 1, you know. Number 2, I'm gonna say probably the roads. There's people out there that are gonna complain about the roads, no matter how good or how bad they are. And I really don't know if there is a third one. Them are the 2 main ones. I guess the third one would be equal representation. I feel that the people of the county, out in the agricultural area, and the people of the villages like Waco and Gresham, and, you know, they need to be represented equally. So,
I think you pretty much answered my question, but is there a specific issue or policy change that motivated you when you were thinking around saying, if I'm gonna run, it was like, you know, I really wanna talk about this, I wanna
I
see
don't-
this happen?
I don't believe there's a specific topic or agenda that I'm interested in or want to see get pushed through. Like I said, my biggest thing is I just want the equal representation for everybody. You know, I get to the villages and talk to them people. I talk to a lot of my farmer friends, and so that's what I believe is important.
Very good.
All right,
Thank you. Mr. Norquist?
Oh. I'm Kent Norquist, 63 years old. I've been a resident of York County that entire time. I was born on a farmstead south of Bradshaw. In grade school, we moved into town, and then we moved south of town when I was a junior in high school, which would have been 1976. Lived out there, went to college, came home, married my wife, raised a family here in York. I live in York right now. So I've been a lifelong resident of York County, very familiar with the workings of this county. And I'm also now an owner of the family farmstead, which was homesteaded over 130 years ago. I recently retired, about a year and a half ago. I guess that's not really recent. And I've been looking for a way to stay active and involved, either on a board or a committee. And once I heard that this position would be open, of course, I stopped in and talked to Kelly about a year ago. Once I heard that chances were good that Kurt would be moving from his position to another position, which would make this opening available. As you can see from my resume, and I'm not going to go through the whole resume here, you've had time to look that over, I'm sure. But as you can see through my line of work, 39 years of working for the Natural Resources Conservation Service, And I mentioned in the resume that I had worked in, I believe, 8 different counties, and I redid that number. It's actually 17 different counties, and the reason I come up with that number is I maintain offices in 5 different counties, and in my line of work, or in that line of work, you tend to overlap into other counties. And because of that, I worked in every office around, and managed the offices around York County, which means that I've covered every inch of this county, either through my work, or doing contracting, or doing status reviews on programs for different federal programs. So I've not only covered every inch of this county, but I'm familiar with a lot of the constituents of this county. And then also, as you can see in my resume, I farmed for a number of years. And so through that line of work, I've had a lot of contact with constituents in this county and a lot of the road coverage in this county. To end up, I'd just like to say that I feel the main responsibility for this, for a commissioner on this board, is to work not only with the board to best manage county resources for the good of the residents, but I think also to work with the training and retention of our quality employees that we have working for this county. So, any questions?
What is your strength?
Common sense. I consider myself a conservative, common sense type of person.
And how about a weakness?
Making the hard decisions.
Okay.
Kind of the same path that I'd asked before. I think we're bored about the same time. York County hasn't changed too much in the last 60 years. Were there be any policy decisions that you think the county is due for, or that motivated you to want to apply for this particular position?
Well, I think as I first mentioned, of course, I was looking for something to involve myself into more. I was very involved in my work for a lot of years, and so I need that something to just drive, and I've always felt that the community service, or in this case, county service, servicing constituents in this county, I've always felt that that was something that was very important, not only from a fiscal standpoint, a budgeting standpoint, but I think also, once again, the retention of our quality employees and the training of those employees.
Very good. Thank you.
I do have a question. We hear a lot about the roads. Can you tell me what the clerk's office does?
Can you tell me?
How much time do you have?
No, I honestly can't. And so that'd be one of the things that I'd be very interested in learning through this position. So.
Thank you. Mr. Sigler?
Just like at school, get to the back of the bus. See as you go. Thank you for taking time to sit down with me and ask me why I'm interested in this position. I guess maybe the best way to do it is if you open up the brochure that I just gave you. On the inside it talks about my strengths. With Gallup Strengths Finder, I'm a relator, I'm a maximizer, I'm an activator, I have self-assurance, and I'm a deliberator. Those have driven me all in my life to be the kind of elementary principal, the business person, the church member that the leader that I've tried to be regardless of what position I've been in. Now that I'm retired and my grandkids are getting older and I don't have quite as many goons to chase around the country and stuff, I'm finding I have some time and I'd like a purpose to be able to use these skills to make a difference in the community. York's important to me. I've been here since 1965, and then we actually moved into our home in '74, and we've stayed in that same home forever, it seems like. And it's to the point where now we're trying to make repairs and fix things back up because the house is so full. But we've been blessed to live in this community with great people. That's why I stayed here as long as I did as a teacher and a principal. Great kids, just a great support for the community, and I'd like to be able to give back. When I lived and did all the business kind of things I had, there wasn't an opportunity, but now that I'm retired, I have an opportunity, and I think I have some things that I can go and give to the county, and this could be a way to do that. I think you're blessed, you've got great candidates to fill this position, and if it's not me, I'm fine with that. At the same time, if it is me, I'll step up and do whatever I need to do to make it happen. I'm a conservative, I'm a Christian, and my Christian values drive who I am and the decision-making that I have. Been married for 53 years. Family's important to me. My kids are important to me. And the community needs schools, and they need hospitals, they need fire departments, and sheriff department. They need all those capacities to make it happen. The bottom line, if you don't have your roads and your maintenance of all that, none of that happens. Farmers can't get their train to market. They can't get into the fields. School buses can't pick up their kids. We had snow on an icy road the other day. The school bus had to go around, couldn't get up the hill to pick up the kids on that line. So roads make a difference for all the citizens. And so I guess if I have something that's of interest to me, it will be the roads. But I don't have an axe to grind. I'm not here saying you got to change this or you got to do that or whatever. But there are issues facing the county so that we can step up into this 21st century. I think we have to have fiber to all the areas. I don't know how you fund that. That's a budgetary kind of thing. But I think it's something that I would hope the county would look at and say, how do we accelerate the opportunity of our kids to be able to compete financially in the county and not have to move to the big cities to where they have the financial or the digital access and the businesses can come here. Seems like we're going to have a data center, so that comes to the town, but we've got 6,000 people that live in the county. How do they get access to have the same opportunities that people in Northfield? So that's a county responsibility and opportunity. What am I going to bring to it as a relator? You try to listen to people. And as a listener, then from there on you can research and figure out what's going on. I'm hearing lots of conversations about some zoning and some conversations down in the pool area. I don't know how much of that's been researched and what the options are and what the best decisions are for that. But that's an element. I hear concerns about, water. What are the water rights? How do we handle that? We faced all this drought. What's going on? How does the county get involved with all that? And you've got all kinds of boards. And I kept trying to research and figure out, how many boards, how many committees are there the county works on? I don't have a clue. There's 18 and 19. And you've got 14,000 people and 6,000 people out in the county. That's a huge responsibility to serve. And it starts with finding out who are they, what do they need, and what can the commissioners do within the parameters legally to make that all happen. And at the same time, be frugal. Nobody wants to pay taxes because right now, a dozen eggs cost $2 or $4 or $6, depending on the week. I want my money to stay home with me. So do I really want it to go to the county? Not too badly. But that becomes an education piece. How do we make it all come together and educate people that opportunity? We talk about roads. Well, if you got a good maintainer man over here, how do you use his skills to change the next guy to do a better job and not have it mounted up so the bus slides into the edge of the ditch because it's so deep. So there's training. And how do we take that good person, keep them here, reward them, and make them feel like, I want to be a part of this community in this county and continue to serve. There's a zoning and a planning committee. We've got to listen to what's going on. There's chicken barns going up all over. What are the implications of those chicken houses? in those ranches. Is that gonna make a difference with our groundwater and all? So there's research to listen to there. That, again, that's zoning, and they got neighbors. I put in 8 barns, how close are the neighbors? What's that gonna make a difference for them? So there's some planning there. And I think we just have to have open decision making. We have to have people listening to what's going on, and research the facts, and then go out and educate people. Tell them, this is why we're doing it. Ideally, if we were online, this brochure ought to be online for everybody to look at that's in this room, but it ought to be online for anybody that's out there in the community looking at what's going on. And if I come and I listen to some of the meetings and stuff, there's decisions that are made and there's papers that have been used and evaluated, but I'm sitting out there thinking, well, what did that say? Well, how did that decision be, how was that made? Well, the transparency isn't there because we haven't employed some of the technology that's possible to let people know what's going on. So I don't have an axe. I just think there's lots of opportunities. This is one of the wealthiest communities, counties in the state. At the same time, people are leaving the rural areas to go to the fish hooks. They're going up the I-80 and around to Omaha and Lincoln, Omaha, and back up to Fremont, so they're doing the fish hook and then over to Norfolk. How do we keep people in York County so they don't have to leave and live in the fish hook and get to take advantage of great people, great community, great opportunities, but still live here and have a competitive opportunity with other parts of the country. And with my job in Zola Business, we traveled all over the country looking at who teachers were, what kind of quality education is going on. And boy, I'd have put the teaching that was going on in here right up with anybody. We went to Mississippi, we went to Iowa, we went to Colorado, we went to Michigan, all over looking at great teachers. And some of the best teachers are still sitting in the buildings that we have in this community. So if you choose me, great. If you don't choose me, I know God's got other opportunities for me, and I'll be fine with that. But I wish you the best, and I thank you for giving me some time to visit with you.
Being an elementary principal, did you have to work on budgets and help with the budgets up at the school?
Yeah, it varied over the years and by different superintendents. And I was privileged with Paul Thompson, who was really always on top of budgets. But yeah, we were given an amount of money. How do you get that amount of money and bring it in and stay into that budget? Had to do it also as a building. When I ran my own business, I had to have a budget. And, the business closed because I probably wasn't the best salesman. I wasn't the best salesman, so therefore the business didn't make the difference that it could have. But yeah, I know what the budget is and how to do it, and how you say, okay, you've got this much money. But I don't think budgets are funny. If you say you've got this much money, but I'm going to figure out how to spend that much money, because I know that the next year, if I haven't spent all that money, the superintendent or the commissioner is going to say, well, you didn't spend all that money on the roads, so therefore I'm going to take that money from the roads and I'm going to put it to the county clerk so she can do a better job with all our licensing. So that budgeting concept is really flexible. So it's not a minimum, and it doesn't have to be a maximum. It's what do we need to do the job and operate accordingly. And not just say, well, inflation's gone up 18% this year, we're going to give you 16% more. That's not going to float with the taxpayers. We can't do that. So anyway, yeah, I know where the budget is. I don't necessarily stay in it very well, if you ask my wife, because I can spend money 6 times. But yeah, I know what the budget is.
Perfect, thank you.
Yeah.
I see that you have lots of strengths, but what is a weakness that you have?
I want it done right and I want it done well. Not necessarily by me, but as that maximizer, if I know what your strengths are, I want you to make use of those outstanding strengths and become the very best that you can be. I don't care if you're a kid, I don't care if you're an employee, I don't care if you're a manager. Use the strengths to your potential. And so that's a strength for me, but it's also a weakness, because I remember when I left the elementary school, one of the teachers said, well, who's going to push us? Well, I push too hard sometimes.
You mentioned water, you mentioned the possibility of the solar farm and the cool pipeline that wants to come in too. Is there a particular issue that you sit around at the dinner table and say, I want to get it, I want to be on this board and want this to be heard, as far as having a position on it?
Gary, I've not gotten to that position yet. And I don't, honestly, I don't know what the boards I heard about, but There's Region 5 board, I know there's that meeting has been going on, and so I know there are some boards, but I don't know what assignments the different commissioners, Dan's talked about, Daniel's talked about being on the technology committee and doing some things there, so yeah, there's some interest that I have, yeah, I like technology, and I enjoy that, and I've graduated to gopher status with my son's farm and that kind of thing, so when I go get parts and stuff, that's the extent of what I can do, but no, I don't really have, like I said, I don't have an agenda, I don't know a lot about nitrates and all that kind of stuff, it's just last week there was a nitrate article in the paper, so I looked at that. You've seen the conversations about the solar farms, I'm sensitive to what's going on there, but I don't have all the facts, so I don't know what's going on. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I think what we'll do now is three of us will write down our selection, and then Mr. Bulgrim will gather them, count them, and make the announcement.
According to the votes, the next commissioner for District 2 will be Woody Ziegler.
I'd like to congratulate Mr. Ziegler, but, and I know I'm speaking for all three of us, the five of you, you're all five, that the community is extraordinarily fortunate to have you here. That I know that there would be boards, that there are venues for you to participate in helping make county government, city government more efficient in your county. And I strongly encourage you to, the four of you, to maintain your involvement in the county, and please stay involved. Thank you. Mr. Ziegler, congratulations again.
Are you adjourned? Are you adjourned? Yes. Okay. Might say.
We're adjourned.